Hi, welcome back to what is now probably the, I don't know, maybe 16th chapter in this build series. Goodness knows how many it will end up being, maybe 20 odd. Anyway, I left the last session doing work to the wings, cutting out the servo boxes and the trenches for the servo cables and for the ailerons. So off camera I stuck the servo boxes into the wings and finished the wings off, ready to be joined. So actually that's the next phase of the operation, joining the wings together. But I will say, before you do join the wings together, make sure all the major sanding has been carried out on the wings first of all, because it makes it much easier if they're individual halves rather than joined together as one long wing. Anyway, enough of that, let's go back to the building board. Back on the building board, here's one half of the wing. As you can see, I've stuck the servo box into the opening, and the cover plate that the servos mount to will sit in that, like so. Nice neat system there. If you've got big gaps around the servo boxes, use lightweight filler to fill them, but I will be talking about filler when I come to do the covering section of the model. And I excuse the dog bark in the background. That's my daughter's dog, called Toffee. Hello Toff, what are you doing? So this next part of the build is joining the wings together. Now, one thing to pay attention to is that the section of the wing here will be covered with a bandage. No, it's not broken its wing, but it's going to be covered with this bandage like that. And this will be stuck on. Usually it's stuck on with epoxy. I'm going to be using something different later. But we have to be aware of the fact that we've got our trench for our cable running down there. So what we don't want, firstly, I don't have to put the cable in before I put the bandage on, because I want the cable to go in before I put the covering on. So what I need to do is to make sure that once the bandage is in place and glued on, I can still feed my cable through to the top side of the wing here, the top side of the wing here, because that's the inside of the fuselage where the receiver will be mounted. So I'm just going to mark with a pencil, if I can find it, there we go, where that bandage comes to, about there. And the reason I'm going to do that is because now this trench that I made for the cable, I'm going to increase it so that the cable actually can go down at an angle. It will help in it won't get stuck, it won't get trapped in there, but if I have to retrieve the cable at a later date because I have to replace the servo, then it's going to be easier to do it if this cable is coming at an angle and then out of the top of the wing here. So I'm just going to do that with anything that falls to hand. A bit of bamboo skewer will do, a rat tail file will do, whatever you can to just make a little tunnel from there to the trench. So I've got my rat tail file, which I'm just going to now push down at an angle down through the core of the fuselage there, so it comes out in about that position there. It's not ultra important how far that comes down. What I want to do is find where that hole is here and work at it from this side. Let me just tilt the camera back a bit there, so you can see just working that hole through there and I'm just going to enlarge in that hole with a drill bit. So I've got a tunnel there. It's going down through there. There we go. There. So you can see here, that's the size hole. And that will then come out through the top, and I'm just again going to mark on the top of the wing here the cutout that I'm going to make in both wing halves, so that if I do need, or when I feed the cable through, it's going to feed through from the underside up through there and up through this gap, and I can see what I'm doing. That's the most important thing when I come to thread that cable through. The worst thing would be if I went to do that and I couldn't actually find the cable or get to the cable. So I'm just going to cut down through the veneer there. And obviously this will be covered with the bandage that I mentioned earlier, but the bandage can be cut back so that I can get the hole. Now you get a better idea of there. So the cable will come up from here up through the top and out there, and I'm going to repeat that on the other wing half. Something I should have mentioned earlier, I was asked the question about the template that you're given by Richard to mark out the aileron, which I did earlier. Do I have to make allowance for the thickness of the false trailing edge here? And the answer to that is no. That's been marked out exactly as the as per the template. It would help if I got the right wing. Just a minute. So this is the other wing, and I've just happened to have the aileron handy for that. And you can see there that the aileron fits in there perfectly, no problem at all. So I haven't had to make any allowance or setback for the false trailing edge, which is good. Right, so let's look at joining these wings together. So they're going to go together like that, using the angle that's built into the root to give me my dihedral. Okay, and as I said before, I'm going to use Gorilla Glue brown on this because it's a polystyrene joint. I've warmed up my Gorilla Glue, so hopefully that will flow. So not as cold today as it has been, warmed up considerably this afternoon, which is good. For a more pleasant experience in the workshop, again using my spatula. Oh yes, you can see that is spreading. Hopefully you can see that. It is spreading a lot better. A bit like syrup, which is good. And I'm going to also apply it to the other side as well, the other half. The baking sheet is down on the table to protect it, and I'm also going to put a big weight on that to keep that positioned. And when I join together, I'm obviously going to have to put some form of dihedral brace under this wing, because this is the one that's going to lift off the deck. I'm concerned if I get glue in the servo cable trench, trough, holes, whatever you want to call it, then I'll be able to poke that out. But that's 105 mates. Really is open, pour one, so let's get a bit more Gorilla Glue on here. No, that should do it. That's better. It's on the Okay, let's just put that down to one side, put the top back on the Gorilla Glue in case I forget it. So what I'm going to do now is just butt those together without the support on them first of all. Just slide them backwards and forwards like so, so that I'm getting a good adhesion between the two, and you can see where that needs to go, well I can anyway, in terms of the dihedral. Yeah, looks about absolutely fine there. What some people will do is they will put pins in between here and here and join them with elastic bands like I showed earlier. Tape is another good thing to use as well, and that's certainly the only thing you've got to watch with. Certainly a good idea, but the only thing you've got to watch with it, if you put tape across here, then that's going to tend to lift off. What you could do, of course, is if you're careful, is you could put tape on the underside of that. But I'm perfectly happy that the way I know that joint is together, if I let that wing down and then gradually bring it up, I can feel where that joint starts to come together. So that's where I'm sliding my support in here, just to keep that in position there. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use some of my weights that I've got, and I'm just going to plonk them on the wings to hold them in position and leave it really for gravity to do the job. And the weights I'm going to use, good old 6S batteries, which are, I won't say surplus to requirements, but have got past their usefulness day. So just plonk those down, plonk some more on there. You can't really have too many weights for this exercise. There we go. And obviously that, in fact that big weight there I'm going to put round that way, that's better, so it's not rocking so much. Just double check on the junction between the wings again. I think that's fine as it is, so I'm now going to leave that to dry. So I've taken the weights off the wing now, and you can see all of the Gorilla Glue bubbled up there. Just flick a lot of it off like that. Pick it off with my fingernail. If I look at the underside there, it's a nice clean joint there. Again, just pick that off. Obviously I'm going to sand that down, but yeah, that's good, that's good. And you can just see maybe just inside the hole I made for the servo cables, a bit of glue has expanded into there, but not too much, so that's really good. So I'll leave that to dry overnight and then come back to it tomorrow, sand it, and probably put the bandage over there as well.